Good morning, Escape. Good afternoon to our colleagues in India. It's really good to see all of you. My job today is really simple. I'm mainly here to welcome all of you and really tell you about the incredible talks that you're going to be seeing today. But before I start off, I'd like to begin with a small caution. I tend to sort of overshare when I'm given platforms like this, and today is not going to be any different. And in the spirit of oversharing, I want to tell you that lately I've noticed some changes. And that's because I've been getting a little bit old. Our CEO, Kevin, once said to me, after the age of 25, it's just downhill from there. So those of you that are just before that, enjoy it. Apparently, everything just goes south after that. But as I was approaching this really terrifying age called 30, I started realizing that I probably need to do stuff to prepare my body so that it doesn't, make noises when I move. And a friend of mine suggested that I should probably try the gym. And I thought about it. I was like, do I really want to pay for that? The answer is no. And so I decided I've got self-discipline. I'll probably do some exercises at home. As you can imagine, that only happened for like twice. And so I took my friend's advice. I got gym membership and I decided I'm going to sign up for a gym. The only problem is, as someone who had never been to a gym before, when you walk in, you see some really, really terrifying things. You start wondering why on earth people are there to begin with and what on earth is happening. And so I realized that I'm probably better served doing stuff that I like and enjoy, which is sports. Two sports in particular: horse riding and football. Not like that. What it normally looks like is this. And then every now and then, actually, this is probably the rarer occasion. What normally happens is that I end up looking like that while playing soccer, where I somehow manage to injure myself. So, yes, I really, really enjoy doing two sports, one in which the riders are known for pretending to be absolutely fine at any cost just so that they can finish the race, and the other where the players are known for being some of the best actors in the world. So it was absolutely hilarious. Well, my friends found it hilarious when I injured my ACL and had to be in a brace for a long, long time. And this wasn't from horse riding, it was from soccer, from playing amateur football on a Wednesday evening. Now, I noticed a lot of things at this point, but the one main lesson that I got from this injury is that age changes you. It changes you a lot. One of the other changes that I noticed is that I was becoming a little bit more grumpy, particularly with the graduates that we have to train and teach in the company. Another symptom that comes with this is this need to sit down and reflect on things that are happening, to really sit down and think about why we do what we do. And this state of being contemplative came with age, or the rate of it came with age, but it actually started quite a long time ago. See, when I was 16, I was part of a charity organization called Cloud Dog. And this initiative was really, really interesting because what it set out to do was inspire youth in the inner cities of London and Johannesburg to get interested in conservation. And to do this, they had a really simple plan. They want to take these young people from London and Joburg, throw them into the wild, make them live with lions for about 3 weeks, and hopefully they'll come back with an appreciation or fear of animals and then try to save them, or it might go the other way around. Something else that they did is that in the second week of this immersive program, we would go and initiate a community service project. We would build water projects mostly. We provided water to a village in Eshowe in KZN. And this is really where my passion for community development started. And I've been doing stuff in this space ever since. The final week of this program came together as a wilderness trail, where we were taken as a bunch of kids who grew up in cities and thrown into Umfolozi Game Reserve, which is a proper nature conservation. Not even the rangers drive cars in there. It's all hike. So we hiked for 5 days, and the only thing protecting us were our 2 rangers with rifles, who would say to me, "We look after you throughout the day, so at night we'll we'll sleep. You should take turns staying up and keeping the fire alive so that we don't get eaten in our sleep. This was a really cool experience. We got to cross rivers, drink water from the river, and we got to sleep under the stars. On our last morning on this experience, one of the rangers found me sitting next to a rock, or on a rock rather. That's not me, as you can tell by the hair. And this ranger said something to me that I'll never forget. It was such a profound message. He said to me, you know, Lucky, the toilet is the most powerful place you can ever be. I know, right? 16-year-old me was like, what is this man talking about? How can a toilet be powerful, let alone be the best place to be? He went on to explain that the toilet is probably is a temporary throne of solitude. It's probably one of the few places where you can truly be yourself. It's the one place where you shed off all the facades that we put on for the world. In fact, you shed off so much that you even take your clothes off. You're alone, no one to judge you, and you're stuck with nothing but your truest and most honest thoughts. Now, at this point, you're probably thinking this man is so profound, but I think he just hadn't discovered Instagram and TikTok. Because this was probably in, August 2010? And so I think nowadays I'd be interested to see if he still thinks the same about toilets. But I think this because, as my research shows, lately quite a lot of people sit on their toilet and time just flies by and they struggle to get off that seat. I wanted to say all of us do this, but my research shows that it's mostly guys that suffer from this phenomenon. And so out of fear of paralysis by toilet seat, nowadays I do my contemplation and pondering more often than not in the shower, where I think about some of the most profound questions. Mainly the question is, why? And this why takes shape in various different forms, from very deep philosophical questions like why, or rather, if a word was misspelled in the dictionary, excuse me, how would we ever know? To really practical operational questions such as, after taking a 12-hour flight, why do you feel the need to shave 20 seconds off your flight or your travel time by getting up while the plane is still trying to taxi back to the gate? And it expands to much more important and profound matters of importance in the international relations space, such as why on earth would Putin's bodyguard bring out the poop suitcase? More recently, my thoughts have mostly been around recollecting conversations and stories and pitches that colleagues and clients bring to us, mainly around artificial intelligence. Yeah, you thought you could get away from an AI talk. Psych, I got you there. Nowadays, we've got everyone talking about AI. It's being pushed on us, even in the most bizarre marketing campaigns. Something that has nothing to do with technology now goes with AI. You want a toaster? Guess what? We can now put AI in your toaster. And I get it. I really, really do. It's important for all of us to explore how we can best get value from this really interesting technology. And so we have to spend time and resources in trying to understand it and how it fits into our space. But we can't get away from the fact that there's also a lot of tech bros, a gender neutral term, by the way, that are trying to sell us on this hype. And there's a lot of noise that's being created through this. And so today, I want to tell you how this tradition of reflecting and asking why is helping me and my team shape our approach to artificial intelligence and maximizing its value. Hey, that sounded like a brilliant LinkedIn post there. 5 ways my toilet and shower help me maximize AI, and how you can too. Follow me on Instagram, or rather LinkedIn. You might see more of these. But the point remains, there's a lot of noise, and it's important for us to understand how we wade through all of this noise in order to realize real value. And so today, I hope to provide you with a structure. We'll call it a framework because I'm a consultant. And this framework will help you sift through the noise in order to identify meaningful ways in which you can implement and realize value in this artificial intelligence technology. To do this, I will overshare and tell you a bit more about myself. My name is Lucky Nkosi, Nhlanhla Lucky Nkosi, And I think I'm the answer to the very important question, what would a spork look like if it were human? This is because I really, really enjoy doing different things, very many different things. This is normally a good thing, except when you're friends like mine, you end up getting convinced, despite your fear of swimming and being unable to swim, you end up being convinced to do crazy things like scuba diving. And despite your fear of heights, you end up being convinced to go on hikes that take you through views and cliffs like this, all the way to being tied up and hanging off a rock, a literal rock. Now, I have friends, I won't call them by name, they're in this room somewhere, that really convinced me to do such crazy things. But when I say I like doing a lot of things, it's not just the fun stuff. In terms of my profession, I've decided because of Stockholm Syndrome to go back to WITS and teach. So I teach computer science at WITS University. And because I'm also susceptible to being convinced of doing fun things, or I'm a sucker for punishment, I'm also a student at the University of Pretoria. Don't ask me what I'm studying, I might just cry. In the main, I spend most of my time working for this really cool company called BBD. Some might know it as BBD Software. While we're a bespoke software solutions firm, my job at BBD is slightly different from most people in the organization. That's because I lead a unit called ATC. Now, if I'm the answer to what a spork would look like, ATC is the truest embodiment of what a Swiss Army knife might look like. That's because we do a lot of things. One of the most common questions I get from people is, what does ATC stand for? Today is your lucky day. We've had a lot of guesses over the years, and all of these guesses have ranged from things like air traffic control, all the code, to even much more bizarre things that would surprise you. The answer is, the name doesn't really matter, does it? What matters is what we actually do. See, ATC is a technical, or rather, is a technical strategy unit. So we support the rest of the company and we do a range of things, from formalized or structured research and development. We do consulting services where we go to our clients and tell them, could have done this better. We think you should do it this way, and then not do it and make it your problems to actually go and implement, right? All the way to really doing things like developer relations, making sure people know who we are and what we do. And of course, my favorite, my colleague Rudolph's worst nightmare, internal development. So we build some of the systems that really keep BBD operating as a well-oiled machine. Just from this portfolio, you should be able to see that we do quite a lot. You might be tempted to worry about the team. Don't worry. They are okay. They're doing fine. They're absolutely okay. And everything around us is absolutely okay. We've got this. We're on top of everything. This is all to say that the idea of time management has become particularly important to me. Now, when I started working and all I did was write code, time management was quite easy. I mean, I say write code, but we all know that what most of us do is copy and paste. But as a neurodivergent person, working as a developer, as an individual contributor, was quite straightforward for me, or time management therein. If we got a new task, I would simply see the task and say, cool. Firstly, did you log a ticket? Once you've logged the ticket, I go, cool, we'll scope it in. After that, I'd continue to completely forget about this item that you've asked me to do, right up until you come knocking and say, we're supposed to demo tomorrow. And then I'd be able to get it to you in prod in a matter of time. Now, this deadline chasing thing, if you do it long enough, you start becoming good at it. And if you keep doing it even after that, you might be so good at it that you might be able to do your whole master's research in a month and get a degree from a university like WITS, only to wake up the next day and say, I'm never doing that again. I'll never put myself under such stress ever again. Even if you ask me to do a keynote address, I won't stay up till 2 in the morning trying to finish those slides and seeing them for the first time on stage. I'm not saying that this is what I did. What I'm saying is, allegedly, right, this can happen if you get good at it. But having people depend on me recently has changed my view of time and has really prioritized it, or rather, my ability to manage time. So I did what any budding academic would do. I decided to conduct thorough research. Now, as a young person myself, fellow young people, I decided to do research in a much more contemporary manner by looking at social media. And tips for time management on social media are quite interesting. This one, for instance, says if you use Google Sheets, you and your colleagues can chat to each other each day while looking productive. And the first reply was like, thanks, I'm doing this tomorrow. Now, at this point, because I think our CEO is in the room, I feel the need to put out a disclaimer that this does not constitute as workplace advice. And so, with text-based social media having failed me, I decided to go to a medium platform, a much more reliable source of research, TikTok. And the one piece of time management
day is 6 a.m. to noon, and I'm not crazy. You're crazy for thinking it takes 24 hours, just like some dude in a cave did 300 years ago. My second day starts at noon and goes till 6 p.m. That's day 2. And then the next day is 6 p.m. to midnight. What I've done now is I have changed and manipulated time. I now get 21 days a week. Stack that up over a month, I'm gonna kick your butt. Stack it up over a year, you're toast. Stack it up over 5 years, my entire life is different than it would have been otherwise.
21 days a week. You're all slacking. Now, since I don't have the ability to multiply time and warp time like that and get 21 days, I decided to rather look at something that I was a bit more comfortable with, which is academic research. Now, the only problem with academic research is if you go to Google Scholar and you type time management, you see very interesting topics, all very nerdy topics, which I found very, very interesting, but none of them had anything to do with actually managing time. They spoke about time series and all sorts of other nerdy topics. So I won't bore you with that. Instead, what I'll do is that I will combine all of this knowledge that I've gotten, and you will just have to trust me. I am, after all, an engineer. I've noticed a few things from this research. The first is that English is a very strange language. As someone who doesn't speak English as a home language, I must tell you, this language is, yeah. The first thing is that this language is really, really strange. And what's strange about it is that just the concept of time management. How do you manage time? You don't. Whether you choose to actively participate or not, time continues. And that's when I realized that it's actually not about managing time, it's actually much more about managing myself. And rather thinking about how I spend my energy on things that matter the most. It's at this point that I came across this title. It said, Procrastinate on Purpose as a time management solution. I was like, yes, I like it. I like it. He did, however, actually catch me on this because he lied. What he actually talks about is this concept of multiplying your time. Bear with me, I know, right? He says you can multiply your time. And at this point, I'm like, because he said you can multiply your time by doing less things. Like, this sounds like a great idea. What he actually talks about is something he calls the focus funnel. He says, if you get a new task or anything that needs to be done, the first thing you need to consider is, do I actually need to do this thing? Am I able to eliminate this thing so that we don't even have to do it? If yes, eliminate it immediately. If not, and it's a repetitive task, we start asking the question, are we able to automate this task? Failing that, we start asking, can I delegate this task to someone else? You might be tempted to say, no, can't delegate it because only I can do it and only I can make it perfect. But what you're doing is stealing time from yourself and stealing opportunities from others to learn and grow. He then says, once you get to that point, you have two outcomes. The first is that it's either so important that it requires you to concentrate and you do it now, or it's less important and less urgent and you can procrastinate and defer it to later. He then says, if you keep deferring something, one of two things happens. Either A, your PM will come and say demo tomorrow and it becomes important and you have to build it now, or two, you'll realize that you can do what you should have done in the first place. You'll be brave enough to eliminate it. I really, really like this. I like this model, and it's now how I manage my time. I try and do these things, especially under crunch time, such as arranging a conference like this one. And when you're deep in it, when you're knee deep in it and chasing deadlines, it's really, really easy to feel that you're alone in the space. And at that point, it's important to go outside, touch some grass. I keep a patch of grass in my study. So once that stops helping, I get in my car and I drive to the office and I try to be with some colleagues. And over coffee, I realized that a lot of the things that I was worried about, a lot of my colleagues were experiencing as well. Pressure to deliver, stress, and mainly noise around AI. And so I started thinking after a long day of students saying, but sir, it's just a spelling mistake, give me 10 marks. And the grad saying, I promise it worked on my machine. I got home and I started contemplating and asking, why do we do what we do? What's the point of software development? I mean, yes, we all know what the real main reason is, right? Do we? The main reason why we do what we do is so that we can pay our taxes. And yes, there are many definitions that tell us that we write software to work more effectively, to invent new ways of working, crucial business asset, something value proposition. But the best explanation I've heard about the value of what we do came from a recent client engagement. I witnessed our CIO, Tony van der Linden, explain to a room full of doctors why they need to go on a digital transformation journey. And all of them walked out saying, yes, we are now digitally transformed. This absolutely blew me away. And Tony did this, of course, by showing them a graph. That's where you start. That's how you get nerds, graphs. Tony drew a curve on the graph and added colors to it. And they were like, wow. He then proceeded to create a y-axis and an x-axis. But along the x-axis, he said, over time, we go through different phases. The first is called digitization. This is where we move from a manual process to a digital process. We were capturing forms. You were capturing deposit slips, for those of you who still remember deposit slips, in order to deposit money in a bank. And we move into digitalization, where you can now capture it online. And the final stage, or the third stage rather, because we're still going on, is this true digital transformation. He says there's a number of activities that happen along that time. You might move from paper-based processing to digital-based processing, all the way to digital capturing, and even letting those things happen automatically by automating them. And he says, as you engage in all of these different activities, you start realizing different levels of digital maturity. And digital maturity refers to the extent to which an organization has successfully integrated digital tech into its operations, culture, and strategy, enabling it to adapt quickly to tech changes. What he then said is that there are often two ways to engage with this. You can either do it reactively or proactively. He says reactively is when you realize that all of your competitors are beating you because they're doing things differently. And actively is you actually going out and investing in order to do things proactively. I then realized that these three phases of digitalization, and digital transformation were actually all geared towards the similar funnel. Because we noticed that during digitization, we eliminated tasks that we didn't have to do. During digitalization, we also then started automating the capture of this data, for example. And when we get to this final frontier of delegation, it's always eluded us how we truly delegate digital or tech responsibilities out to systems. And this is where agentic AI is now enabling us. So the question then is, what does the future look like? Now, we know that developers have infiltrated the world and every part of society, so much so that every tech advancement now has a version to it. So far, we have 4 versions, version 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0, and we call this industrial revolutions. If we consider Tony's graph, it talked about the 3 main things at the end, which is us getting customer obsessed in order to personalize every single customer's journey on our solutions, in order to create value for them. And lastly, this idea of environmental obsession. Now, this next phase of this, where we really start thinking about this environmental obsession, is actually already under construction. Version 5 already has people working on it. But of course, in order to differentiate it from the first 4 and not to scare the politicians who still say we are going into Industry 4.0, we called it something different. It is now called Society 5.0. And this concept really embraces the idea of sustainability, safety, and individual well-being. It was proposed by the Japanese government in 2016. It builds on Industry 4.0 and aims to create a super smart society by integrating cyberspace with the physical space. And it's aimed at solving social challenges. It's about tech beyond just the business means. And the whole point of it is to improve the quality of life. And of course, foster economic growth. I mean, it's the bottom line. See what I did there? Bottom line, and I put it at the bottom. I'm here all day. But the main point of it is that technology has a purpose. It is to improve the way we do things so that we can realize a better life. And better life can be subjective, satisfying all levels of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so if we look at every development that we've gone through, we realize that there's been a pattern in how we leverage all of this technology. We've eliminated tasks that we didn't need to do. We've automated things that are repetitive, and we keep trying to delegate things that we don't want to do so that we can focus on the things that matter. We recently hosted a hackathon, the winners of which will be announced at today's closing ceremony, by the way. And one of the most common questions that I got from people was, what should I build? There's so much AI out there, I have no idea what to build. This is not a question that's just affecting AI participants. All organizations across the world are stuck on this. And the answer really lies in reflecting about what you and your clients do. You need to consider every operational aspect of your organization and think about how you can improve that using technology. I know you'll be tempted and say, Lucky, we've been doing this for 41 years. We've already automated everything. We are hyper automated. But I challenge you to that. See, when I started working at BBD as a baby, one of the first projects that I worked on was this legacy system. I won't say its name. I might just traumatize some people in the room. But this banking solution was built on some really impressive stuff. There were some complex components in there. The front end was built with VB6, backends running on C++. There were a lot of really interesting things. And of course, it could only run on Internet Explorer 7. Not even the most modern Internet Explorer, which was 11. And we had to run it in compatibility mode as well. And this project ran into a problem because it was built in 1999 as a temporary solution. And our client wanted to bring it into the future because it was responsible for most of the bank's operations. And so my tech lead and I looked at this and thought, this isn't chaotic enough. You know what would make it even better is if we sprinkle some JavaScript onto it. And so we had this really morphed hybrid solution that worked and did its job, but it also had JavaScript, which made me happy. The most impressive thing about the solution is that it's still running in production today. So what was a temporary solution built over 6 months is now still responsible for major operations in the bank. Colleagues recently told me that despite me listening to Jeff and throwing JavaScript at pretty much everything, that this solution is now actually being retired, or they're trying to retire it. This issue is not unique to this one client either. At BBD, we've been working with large enterprises for 41 years, since 1984, when the company was founded. And all of these large organizations have very old, important legacy systems. We've helped some of them modernize these into newer ones by rewriting them or augmenting them. But one such client had the same problem recently. They had a mainframe solution. It was built with a combination of COBOL and a few other technologies. The solution to modernize this was absolutely genius. What they did is, because most of you claim not to know COBOL, they got one grand wizard who still knew and admitted to knowing COBOL to actually go and write, or rather to go and check out this code, interpret it, understand it, and help document what this code did. And then a younger team tapped into this person's wisdom and knowledge, and they went and rewrote it in Java Spring Boot. This was really, really cool because we were able to actually do this. And when the client came back again and said, hey, there's a chance we might need to do this for another system, the team said, sure, reading COBOL is painful. Can we use AI to do this thing? And what came out of that project was an initiative to rewrite a mainframe solution and convert it into Spring Boot using AI. What this team did is that they were able to do this work, which would have taken this tiny slice of work that they did this in, would have taken the team 2 months. Using half of the team, they were able to do it within 3 to 4 days. This is really, really impressive work. They realized that what they produced, despite the same functionality in much more modern tech, the code was reduced 55%. They were able to use modern architecture, and they were able to improve code quality because, no one was writing tests in COBOL systems. It led to a much more robust product, much more resilient product. And of course, they claim to have had self-documenting APIs. What this team managed to do was realize immediate and clear value. They realized value not by listening to all of the noise, but rather by being able to pick which of the technologies is actually meaningful for the project that they are out there to do. The job that we do is pretty much the same. We're here to solve problems. And that's what this conference is about. Artificial intelligence might be topical right now and driving innovation. But the next frontier, Industry 5.0, reminds us of what this is all about: improving lives and adding value. Some of the talks that you'll see today will showcase this idea in very various different ways. And not all of them have AI. For instance, Knowledge will speak to you about how he managed to automate, or rather eliminate the need to type on those annoying TV remotes by reverse engineering his remote so that he doesn't have to go left, 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 right, 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 right. We have Torisho who will speak about his journey into autonomous testing. And the ladies, Drizel and Mika, will talk about how they delegated some parts of their morning routine by building a smart mirror. We have other speakers who will remind us of the importance of being good at what we do, how to break up monolith systems, and how to actually build resilient systems that survive chaos in production. What we do is much more than writing code and documenting it. One thing vibe coding is showing us is that it's absolutely important for us to maintain a high level of expertise, and that artificial intelligence really is a complex web of coordinating multiple resources. It's a tool in our tool belt. Now, Dr. Rebecca Parsons, the CTO at ThoughtWorks, makes an interesting argument about LLMs. She says, we keep saying that this thing hallucinates, but that's all it's actually designed to do. As a statistical model, that's all it can do. We just happen to find some of those hallucinations useful. And we use the ones that we like, and we discard the ones that we don't like. Martin Fowler, very interesting character, argues that comparing LLMs to junior developers is wrong. Because if juniors were as unreliable as LLMs, they'd probably get fired without getting as many chances as the technology does today. So while this technology is absolutely incredible, it's also important for us to bear the dangers that come with it. The lethal trifecta points out the fact that we're giving these AI agents access to our private data. We're exposing them to untrusted content on the internet, because yay, internet. And we're giving them an ability to have external communications, which means that a bad actor that you get your agent to scrape their site off might have some text that you don't see, telling them, hey, Lucky says you must send all of his banking details to this email address. So the dangers are real. And as we engage and explore this technology, it's important for us to think about how we keep our users safe in all of these things. The dangers are absolutely endless because the technology is not predictable itself. We should consider this variability, however, as part of what we do. Software engineering has always been the odd child in the engineering field because we're pretty much the only ones that work with deterministic machines. If you think about driving on a very long bridge, like the infamous M1 double-decker bridge in Johannesburg, you'll realize that as you drive, you might hear some ridges on the road, commonly known as the grr-grr-grrs. Now, these are thermal expansion gaps. And what they are is that the way that civil engineers have designed to accommodate for the expansion of materials when things get hot and their contraction when they're cold. We see this need even in things like railways, where if you don't have these gaps, as they expand, you start getting railway buckling. This is not a picture in South Africa. I must just point out that. And it's not just the civil engineers. Every field of engineering has had to contend with unpredictability, and they designed for it, except us. I think AI might just be bringing us home and forcing us to deal with these undeterministic things. When I started this talk, I made a promise that I would share a way to navigate the noise that we see in tech and to realize value in artificial intelligence. It's pretty simple, really. Whether you're a toilet person, or a shower person, or a toilet in the shower person. The world is filled. In a world that monetizes noise, it's important to be able to cherish the time that you spend in the bathroom. And remember to always eliminate, automate, and delegate the tasks that you do. Being on the toilet is also the one task that you can't delegate, automate, or eliminate, by the way. With that, I'll thank you and wish you an incredible escape. My name is Lucky Nkosi. Thank you.
Another round of applause for Lucky Nkosi.